So then what we're going to do is we're going to work on our bandages, okay? So I'm going to take a little bit of my Van Dyke brown. I'm going to add a little bit of white to it, okay? So a little bit of dark brown, a little bit of white. This is also a process, okay? So we're going to layer it up and make it lighter in some areas and darker in some areas, but you always have to start with the darkest first. So I'm going to go within this bandage. We're going to make it a little bit like of a, darker brown. We're going to take our pressure off as it goes back because it'll be shadowed a little bit by the sleeve, okay? We'll come back. Anywhere there's a chalk line, you're going to leave a little bit of black, not a gaping amount of black, a little bit of black, okay? So Van Dyke brown and a little, and on the outside of the chalk line, you can go on that, but the inside of the chalk lines, you're going to leave a little bit of black. So get real close like that. See in between this one and this one? Get real close, lift off, and we'll come and we'll layer this up. We'll make areas of this a little bit brighter so it looks like it's coming out towards you, and then we'll leave some areas a little bit darker. Okay? So, but let's go through all these bandages right here first, like with this first coat, and then you'll be shocked how quickly these become three-dimensional looking. So this one, I'm going to pull down this way. I'm going to follow the shape. Leave a little bit of black in between that other bandage and this bandage, okay? I'm going to keep pulling small amounts of paint. I know it's tedious, but don't use a lot of paint. You're just dry brushing. I go in this section here, okay? I have a couple little slight ones like in through here, okay? And then I'm going to pull down through here. Sometimes you can use the skinny part of your brush to get right up against the edge, but don't do that until you barely have any paint because we want it a little bit darker in some areas, okay? So then I'm going to come down to this. The pieces in between the bandages are the pieces that the hand is showing through, okay? So this also right here is a little part of the bandage. Okay, so we have this tiny little piece right here. Sometimes you'll just have to get in there with your side of your brush. I always like the biggest brush for the job. Okay, and then we'll go to this piece right here. I'm not using, it's hardly any paint. Okay. This is called dry brushing. See, I'm like tapping off my brush before I come to the canvas also. And then we'll make these come to life here shortly, okay? I have another like smaller section right in through here. Okay. Actually loved this part of the painting. Like loved creating this, the bandages when I first created the painting. So much fun. They come together so nicely, and everybody's were like fantastic. I couldn't believe the paintings that came out of this workshop. Like they were amazing. So I hope to see yours also, starting at the top, lifting off as I come down. Because when we come back, we're going to be brightening the top and the sides anyway. Okay, so we have that in first. So now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to grab just white, a little bit of white, and I'm going to think of like where my light source is. So I'm going to make it a little bit brighter, like right here on this edge. We'll lift off. We'll put some lines through this later to make it look more bandagey. So let's get some of these little scuff marks a little bit brighter right here. But as we're coming close to the shirt, we're going to have to take our pressure off, all right? So just solid white, right? This one is going to go this way. Okay, that's a little too much. So this way. And so I'm going to scuff my lines a little this way because this is a short area. So I'm just going to scuff a little bit of white going up and down using the skinny part of my brush on that one. Okay? So that one, our angle's a little bit different. So I still need to catch a little bit of an edge, even though this one's starting to go back there. A little bit of an edge. All right, so on this one, in the center is where it's going to be a little bit brighter. All right, so we have that in the center. I have my phone on silent, but it's still buzzing. I think I need to the do not disturb on. Okay, so a little bit of white on each one, all right? And we'll build this up. It's all birthday stuff, so I'm sorry. Okay, do not disturb. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to keep like in the center. I want this a little bit brighter, okay? Very light touch when you come to the sides. I'm going to start a little bit on the front and pull and lift off. We're going to break this up also, so don't think this is it. It's not it. I want a little bit brighter over here. So I'm going to go here, more in the center there. I'm going to touch my chalk marks too. Like I'll come back and do that on everything, but just a little bit on that one to move it out a little further. Okay. The parts that are the brightest are going to look like they're like coming up towards you, okay? So keep that in mind. So if you're putting in the middle, it looks like it's like bowing up a little bit right there. You're putting on the front. That'll also, like if you're putting on the front, not only and in the middle will make it look like the light is coming in right there. And then also it'll help it make it look a little bit more round by putting in the middle as well, okay? I feel like I can pull in a little raw sienna. My canvas is a little bit dry. I'm going to put a little bit more color in here, a little bit more raw sienna. Okay, tiny bit, not a lot. Okay, and so I'm going to start right on the edge. I'm going to pull over, lift off, pull over, lift off. Okay, I go back through and do this a few times. Let me get the thumb, okay? I'm going to start down here just a little bit towards the edge, okay? Right here. We build it. I always talk about like building our paintings. So especially with dry brushing. Right, this I will have to turn my canvas a little bit to get on the pinky. So I'm going to put this down for a second. And I am going to start here. I want a little bit brighter towards the top. And I'm going to pull across, okay? While I'm over here, I'm going to take the skinny part of my brush. I'm going to catch the edges, okay? I'm going to catch the edges just a little bit. Makes a big difference. And we're going to come back with a little bit of watered down black and brown and come through these also. Oh my gosh. First day on the allergy meds. He is so loud sleeping. Okay, see how much even that little bit did to make it pop? Okay. If you want to go back to the video with all the banter on it, there's no dog snoring. There was doing this, so you have a quieter one. Okay, so I'm going to turn this way. Remember, these chalk lines aren't going to stay here. So you need to catch a little bit of the edge. It's a little bit easier to do this than go back through with your script liner and do every single edge. I find it easier to add your edges in this way. Okay, just a little bit of white. I'll flatten it out. And this way. if we need to put our black back in later, we can, okay? So if there's anywhere, before we start adding like little tiny lines in here, we're gonna, just a tiny bit, we're not gonna put a lot of detail or anything. Go through and see if there's anything I make, oops, I touched my raw sienna, not my intention, so I'm gonna wipe that off. By the way, if you do anything you don't like, just put it on, put a little bit of water in your paint towel, lightly wipe it off. It comes right off. Don't ever be afraid to do anything with acrylics because you can always wipe it off. Also, if you get your hand in your paint and you put it on a black canvas that came black, don't paint black over it because blacks never match. Take a damp cloth and wipe it off and take it off, okay? Because blacks will never match. Your eye will go right to that, okay? So I want this part to look like it's bending up a little bit. So I'm gonna add a little bit more white to this bandage. And then I'll break that up a little one side that dries, okay? So I'm gonna look at all of these and see like, oh, where could I make it a little bit brighter to make it either look round or like the light's hitting it. So I'm gonna go back through and I'm going to brighten some things. And then I'll also go back through and add a low light to this, okay? See how it starts coming to life? I'm gonna go right on the edge there. I'm gonna touch that again. A little bit on the edge there, not too much. Okay. I do have to brighten these last two. I'm gonna move you down one more time. I'm gonna brighten this right here and right here. While I'm here, I'm gonna wipe off my brush. I'm gonna pull out a little bit of my dark brown and my black, all right? Very little. You can do this with a round brush as well, pointy brush if you wanted to. But what I do is I just lightly put some lines going through this like it's a bandage, okay? And you have to follow what you're in. You know, that's still not dark enough. I want it a little bit darker. I'm gonna pull in the slightest amount of black and I'm just going to like scuff in a couple of lines in here to make it look like, you know, make it look like an actual bandage. The little, you know, ragged lines in here. Just a couple. I don't make this real prominent. Just very, very little. I grabbed a little bit more black. And just kind of follow the shape. Just touch it through. It's very subtle. If you want to follow your curve a little bit better, you could always just get your round brush, go through here. Okay. So the only place that I feel like I'm missing a little something is I'm wiping off my brush. And I feel like on this bandage here, it's sunken in a little too far. So I'm going to add a little bit of color to that one right there. I also think I'm going to add a little white to this long one again, okay? So I'm gonna go in here, and now I'm gonna go in between my lines just a little bit and add a little bit right there, okay? So I'm gonna pull across, oh. I need to move you back up, don't I? So what I was doing is I was pulling across right here. I wanted to add a little bit more white, so sorry about that. And then a little bit through here again. And I think I'm okay with that. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get, you can get a round brush, any round brush, but I like to use like a short old one, okay, or a little tiny filbert if you wanted to, but something with not like a big point, okay? See how these round brushes are a little flatter on the top? So I like to use something like that. And what we're going to do is we're just going to stuff in a little bit of our steel blue. Remember, if you don't have steel blue, mix a little bit of black, dark blue, and white, and you'll get this. I'm going to put a touch of white in with it. And look how little, I'm going to bring this really close. See how little paint I have right here? Tiniest bit of paint, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to scuff this in, especially these black areas back in through here, because you don't want it to look like your hand disappears. It needs something back here. We're going to go in between the bandages. We will come back and add a little bit of a white highlight to this as well. And so I need to get right in here. Don't go over your chalk lines, just kind of like scrub it in these areas, okay? We're scrubbing it in. So I'll go, it's a little bit brighter towards the edge, just like your other bandages, and then take off your brush as you go back. All right? You want to see it, but you don't want it to be, you know, super bright. I'm going to go up under that sleeve too, okay? You don't want your hand to completely disappear right here. This is something in the classes that I went over with some people, because this little black area in here needs to still show that there's a hand, you know, in there, okay? I'm going to grab it a little bit more. There you go. That's a little too bright, so I'm going to go back to my blue steel. We'll scuff that in. And we're just going to go in all these little areas where the finger is peeking through. And then we'll come back and brighten some areas, okay? Remember, brighter at the top. Take your pressure off as you come down. Now the fingernails, start thinking about that. So many people did all different colors, didn't necessarily do the colors we did, and I love the creativity. One of our instructors at the studio too, she put like dripping blood coming down here. It was gory, but boy, it was cute. Like, she did a really nice job. Everybody did such a great job with it. But so many people did different colored fingernails, like red. We had glow in the dark that like kind of matched the eyes in the pumpkins. We had that also. This is definitely dry brushing. It's the smallest amount of paint. If you're moving a bunch of paint around, you're using too much paint. A little bit brighter here towards the top. Taking your pressure off as you're coming down. So now what you do is you just wipe off your brush a little bit. You only grab a little bit of white. That's it. Don't get all the blue steel out of there. Okay. And you're going to look at your light source. So it's going to be a little bit brighter up here. Take your pressure off as you come down. A little bit brighter up here. Take your pressure off as you come down. Okay. Smallest amount of paint. Don't use a lot of paint. Tiny, tiny. Little bit. Okay. Still need a little bit to pop up right there. Maybe a little bit here. We'll get rid of all these chalk lines after we get our script liner lines in. We'll put real fine lines in at the end. Okay. And so I'm going to go, let me move this over so you can see a little bit better. The top here, take my pressure off as I come down. Top here, pressure off as I come down. This is how you're making things look like they're three-dimensional. I need a little bit more white there. Top, pressure off as I come down. Get a little bit in there. But I have to keep pulling paint because I'm just getting the smallest amount. Tiny, tiny, tiny. Okay, so I'm going to go here. Take my pressure off. Still need a little bit in these areas, not too much.